After the French Revolution, when the Louvre was transformed from a royal palace with private collections to a public museum, it was here that young painters could complete their art education by copying old masters, learning from the examples of the past. This tradition is still going on in the Louvre today. Where Pierre Rosenberg is chief curator of painting.
When Ingres painted his picture in 1814, he was very much admired and also very much criticized. Criticized because critics said there were 3 vertebrae too much in the back of this odalisque. What is an odalisque? An odalisque is a Turkish harem girl, and you recognize her very well through her costume. The colors are very soft, very precise, very beautiful. The harmony of it is the reverse of the very strong coloring that David had used for his great pictures. I really do love this picture. Why? Well, it's not sensual, it's erotic. It's an intellectual picture. It's painted with his brain. In spite of this, it's erotic. It's connected. In fact, it's a connection between brain and eroticism. Everything about eroticism is happening in the brain here and nowhere else. It's a very hot picture, but done by an artist whose conception about art is of a very high level. And in a strange way, Ingres was very much criticized in the 19th century because thought to be a reactionary artist, an artist of the past, an academic artist, a man bringing nothing new to art. And in the reverse has happened in our century, where Ingres, in a certain way, is so much and so rightly admired and is considered as one of the fathers of modernity and of modern art.
But such warm and luscious fantasies were far removed from the cold and appalling reality of the distant battlefields where the dramas of Napoleon's campaigns had taken place.
Gros was a pupil of David, but his art is quite different of David's art. Here you have the battlefield of Eylau the day after the battle. Of course, the hero of the battle, Napoleon, is in the middle of the picture. But there are also not only the victor of the battle, but also the victims of the battle. And that's quite new in French art, to present human beings, anonymous soldiers, dead soldiers, as they were after this terrible battle. And of course, this will open all a tradition, all in the 19th century French art. But Gros was the first in French art to do so, and he did so in a very moving, touching way.
Now the once glorious Napoleonic armies began their retreat from Moscow to Waterloo. With defeat, the French began to identify themselves with those fallen foreground figures, with the anonymous victims, rather than with the glories of Bonaparte. Myths of heroic or noble ends turned into deceptions, and more often than not, only pointless suffering and senseless torture remained. The blackness of war between Spain and France inspired Goya to sketch this series on the horrors of war, showing the factual account of man's cruelty to man. Goya watched the arrival of the foreign conqueror, believing at first that he was bringing reason, progress, order, and liberty. But in fact, he came to destroy and devastate, to violate and to massacre. The sleep of reason produces monsters. In his picture, 3rd of May, Goya showed the church in darkness, impotent before the faceless executioners of a secular martyr. Goya's nameless peasant symbolizes the whole of Spain, which rose against the Napoleonic invaders. Fire, destruction, violence, death, this was Spain between 1808 and 1814. The only source of illumination is the soldier's huge lantern. We are far from the beam of the Enlightenment. Soon after the Napoleonic Wars, and inspired by the French Enlightenment, the Greeks began their struggle for independence against the Turks. The French romantic painter Delacroix was passionately committed to the Greek cause. He lent his support to the Greeks in Greece on the Ruins of Missolonghi of 1826.